This is Behind the Headlines, with behind-the-scenes analysis on issues affecting Pennsylvanians, sponsored by the Susquehanna Valley Center for Public Policy. Now, here's your host.
Hi, from Philadelphia to Erie and from Scranton to Pittsburgh, it's Behind the Headlines. I'm Charlie Greenawalt, Senior Fellow of the Susquehanna Valley Center for Public Policy, and I'm joined as usual by my co-host, Maura Donley. Maura, how are you?
I'm good, Charlie. How are you doing?
Good, good. Well, we had, last time we had to talk about the passing of Vice President Cheney.
Yes.
Now we have at the state level the passing of Senate Majority Leader David Brightbill. Oh. Another surprise for most of the folks in Harrisburg.
He was around forever. Yeah.
Well,
wow.
He did so many good things through the majority caucus in the Senate and for his home county of Lebanon, and I know he'll be greatly missed.
Right.
But he was also a supporter of the area that we're going to talk about today to start off our show, and that was coal. And to talk about coal, we have the best person in Pennsylvania, the Executive Director of the Pennsylvania Coal Alliance, Rachel Gleason. Rachel, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. There is so much happening in the area of energy and in the area of coal, particularly because of the new administration, the Trump administration. And they've shifted gears from where the Biden administration was going with coal as an energy source. Could you talk about that shift a little bit for our audience to try to give us the lay of the land in the macro scale?
Sure. There's so much happening. And the former administration really, it's always been a death by 1,000 cuts in so much that implementing regulations or proposing regulations or deterring any investments in industry. It was a common thread in that administration. And with the current administration, I will say I've been very impressed by their preparedness, if you will. When they came in office, when President Trump came in office in January, right out of the gate had a number of executive orders that he signed that really focused on deregulation and unleashing American energy. And also very quickly appointed folks to cabinet positions in, EPA Administrator Zeldin, Department of Energy Chris Wright, Department of Interior Doug Burgum, very quickly confirmed and very quickly got to work. So that has been a departure from the past several years, and very welcomed developments.
So what was the most critical deregulation that occurred?
I don't know if I can identify the most critical. There's been so many.
I
will say, in March, Administrator Zeldin had it was March 12th, a day of deregulatory action that was quite significant.
Wow.
And he identified it was not a whole day, but it was a day of this is what we were going to do.
Great.
And he laid out a number of, I couldn't even list them all, but a number of efforts that he was going to pursue to address the death by 1,000 cuts.
What were the most important ones? Could you pull out one or two?
I can probably pull out two or three. There's several. There was the ELG rule. The biggest one was probably what we referred to as the Clean Power Plan 2.0.
No, you have to explain this.
And I will.
Okay, thank you.
So what that did was it impacted natural gas and coal. And it essentially said for coal, you have to, if you want to run until 2032, you don't have to do anything. But if you want to run beyond 2030 to 2039, you have to co-fire with natural gas and then commit to shut down by 2039. And then if you want to run beyond 2039, by 2030, you have to install carbon capture sequestration and have it 90% effective by 2039. Technology that does not exist on scale. So the effect of that was if you can't do B and C, you have to shut down. So that was really, quite difficult for the markets to handle, quite difficult for folks to invest in power plants and do upgrades and the things that they would like to do if they don't have market predictability. So that was a big one. There was the mercury air toxic standards regulation that had been challenged, not by Pennsylvania, but by 23 or 24 different states in the courts. And again, had similar types of requirements that weren't really well justified and very costly. So that effect would be shutting down power plants. And then there was the endangerment finding, which is really interesting to follow. So the Clean Power Plan 2.0 and the MATS rule have been published for rescission in the Federal Register. The endangerment finding is also being rescinded, but it's interesting because it was never a regulation. It actually stemmed on a 2007 Massachusetts case where they wanted to regulate greenhouse gases from cars, from vehicles. And that resulted in the endangerment finding, which was really just a policy paper. But it has been the backbone for rationalizing a lot of very terrible energy policy. So they're in the process of rescinding that as well.
Well, there's a lot going on in
A lot.
Pennsylvania in coal.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of our viewers might be a little bit surprised by that, but because it's not in the news every single day, which is a good thing, because it tends to make the news when there's a problem. Tell us a little bit about what Pennsylvania looks like. What kind of coal do we produce? There's different kinds, and I think our viewers will be interested in knowing the magnitude of what's going on in Pennsylvania.
Well, we are the third largest coal producing state in the nation.
Did not know that.
Yes, we are. We are number 3 behind Wyoming and West Virginia. And we have a significant amount of very valuable metallurgical coal. And metallurgical coal has different levels. It has to have a certain composition to go in the coke ovens to produce good coke. And when it comes out of the coke oven, it has to be able to withstand the iron ore that's put on top of it to spit out the pig iron. So it has to be of a certain value, if you will. So there's high vol, mid vol, and low vol. And in what I call the Allegheny Mountain region, so this is the area east of Pittsburgh, so Somerset, Cambria, Armstrong, Indiana, Elk, Jefferson, they have a significant amount of very valuable metallurgical coal. So that's predominantly room and pillar mining. There is some surface, and the majority of that coal does stay domestic. So we send a significant amount to U.S. Steel in Pittsburgh. The Clairton Coke Works in Pittsburgh is the largest coke manufacturing facility in the Northern Hemisphere. And then Cleveland Cliffs has a coke facility in Monessen. So a lot of there's a reason U.S. Steel put their plant in Pittsburgh. It was because of the proximity of the metallurgical coal,
Yeah. Wow.
So we do stay predominantly domestic. And then in the southwest corner of the state, in Greene and Washington counties, we have 7 longwalls. That's known as full extraction mining. And 5 of those longwalls belong to Core Natural Resources, which used to be Consol Energy. In Q1 of 2025, Arch merged with Consol, and now they are the largest market cap coal company in the United States that is headquartered in Canonsburg. A lot of Core's coal, now they have new assets now with the merger. So they have met coal assets in West Virginia, they have assets in Colorado, they have assets in the Powder River Basin, but they also have 5 longwalls, which are the largest underground mining complex in North America. So we have all kinds of fun stats here in Pennsylvania. And their coal, does go domestically for power generation, and it's also exported. They have exclusivity to a terminal in Baltimore, so when big ships hit bridges, that's kind of a problem for exports. But they export a lot internationally, primarily for industrial purposes, so cement and brick making. So we go everywhere. And then they have Core Innovations. They're making decking. They have this product called Seafoam, where they're working with aerospace type of applications. So all very interesting.
Well, here in Pennsylvania, we've been talking here on the show for some time about a set of regulations called RGGI, and about perhaps the restrictions that they have placed on the state's economy. Could you talk about what RGGI is and how the coal industry views it, and what's just happened in Pennsylvania?
Sure. So I've been living the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative since 2019, when Governor Wolf signed an executive order in October of 2019 directing DEP's Environmental Quality Board to develop regulations to join Pennsylvania to RGGI.
And that was an executive order. It was not legislation.
It was not legislation, it was executive order. And I'll tell you, from the very beginning, it was difficult to educate people. I mean, a lot of people would say, who's RGGI? You know, like, no, it's the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. But just educating folks, you know, out of the gate on what this does. On the surface, it is a multi-state compact that caps and taxes carbon dioxide. So if you are a power generator and you generate over 25 megawatts of energy that goes to the grid and you emit CO2, you have to pay a tax. That's what it is on the surface. But when you peel back the layers of that onion, you see that the states that are in RGGI are predominantly New England states, and then New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia tried to get in. Their governor said no, so that's stuck in litigation. Their new governor, I think, lets back in. But when you peel back that onion, you see that New England states have the highest power prices in the state, outside of California, which is also in a cap and tax program. And I'm saying contiguous, I'm not comparing Hawaii. When you look at some of the other data, we don't operate in the same grid that the RGGI states operate in. So our grid has different states. We're in the PJM grid, the Regional Transmission Organization, that is supposed to be politically neutral and just kind of manages the distribution of power to 65, 67 million people. Our grid includes Ohio and West Virginia and a little piece of Illinois. And the effects of RGGI just shuts down generation in Pennsylvania and then incentivizes generation to be built in Ohio and West Virginia. So you're not really reducing any CO2, you're just exporting it across your state line, which does absolutely nothing other than apply a tax to the ratepayers. And if the natural gas generation and the coal generation has to pay more to operate, and we're also in the middle of a grid crisis in PJM right now, that is eventually going to get passed down to the ratepayer. So it's been something we've been fighting for 6 years, like I said. We went through the entire regulatory process. We went through the EQB. We went through the Independent Regulatory Review Commission. And then once it hit that final, we worked with the General Assembly on trying to repeal it. And then we ultimately, PCA was the Pennsylvania Coal Alliance was a petitioner in the litigation. So we, on our petition, we had the United Mine Workers, the IBEW, the Boilermakers, they all joined us in our effort. And then there were some separate lawsuits that were brought by the Pennsylvania Senate and the House because of the process, and the power plants as well. So we were kind of all enjoined. The power plants in our case were enjoined, but we won at the Commonwealth Court level. So that was 2 years ago in November. The Commonwealth Court gave us a great decision and said that, you know, this is a tax, it's not a fee. DEP was claiming that it was a fee and that they could assess this on us, but a fee is only for the administration of a program. It's not a multi-million, billion-dollar revenue generating scheme.
That's a tax.
That's a tax. So the Commonwealth Court gave us that decision, and then, you know, we thought we had a victory there, and then 2 weeks later, Governor Shapiro decided to appeal to the Supreme Court. So then we went through that process. We had oral arguments in May of this year, and I was really hoping for a very positive Supreme Court decision. But during the budget negotiations, I'll give a shout out to the Senate Majority Leader Pittman and Speaker Ward, and Appropriations Chair Martin and Leader Topper in the House during budget negotiations negotiated with Governor Shapiro to repeal that regulation. So DEP has since filed their motion with the court to, I guess, rescind the repeal. Yeah. And so
that's huge.
It's in the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
So we're just ready for the next battle.
Reggie is
History.
gone.
Reggie is history.
Yes, bye, Reggie.
Yeah.
In the last, we need much more time with you.
Come back too.
Yeah. Could you give us a quick overview of what's going on with U.S. Steel and Nippon Steel here in Pennsylvania, and how that affects or touches on Pennsylvania coal?
Well, there was a deal for Nippon Steel to take over, acquire, I'm not really sure of the right term at the moment, U.S. Steel that happened in June. Now, there are some protections for that so that the U.S. government still has oversight. So it's not really a Japanese company fully owning. There's certain parameters on their board and executives that have to remain, U.S. citizens. The headquarters has to remain in Pittsburgh. You can't just fire employees and reorganize. But Nippon Steel has committed, I believe, $14 billion of investments in U.S. Steel, which includes the Mon Valley Works in Pittsburgh. So it's quite a significant promise going forward. And for the coal industry, given that we produce so much valuable metallurgical coal and send that to U.S. Steel, we're very excited about the future and the prospects of that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay. Rachel, please come back.
I will come anytime you invite me.
I know Maura and I have many more questions
I know,
that we'd love to ask you. Maura's just scratched the surface.
I know, I agree. Yep.
But thank you very much for being with us
For
today.
sure. Thanks for having me.
And please stay with us. We'll be back with the second segment of Behind the Headlines right after this.
Behind the Headlines is brought to you as a public service by the Pennsylvania State Association of Township Supervisors, the largest, most influential municipal association in the Commonwealth. Since 1921, PSATS has been preserving and strengthening township government and securing greater visibility and involvement for townships in the state and federal political arenas. Covering 95% of Pennsylvania's land mass, townships represent 5.5 million residents, more than any other type of political subdivision in Pennsylvania. Additional underwriting provided by the Edward H. and Jeannie Arnold Foundation and by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business. Behind the Headlines is also supported as a public service by the Pennsylvania Highway Information Association, the go-to source to learn about transportation projects and issues. Visit pahighwayinfo.org.
Welcome back to Behind the Headlines. On this segment, Maura and I are joined by Cassandra Coleman, who is the Executive Director of America250PA. This is a situation, a development that we're all aware of that's coming, but none of us are really knowledgeable about how it's being organized privately or publicly. And perhaps you could tell us that. We're talking about the celebration of America's 250th birthday.
Yes, so thank you for having me. And America250PA was actually created back in 2018 by the legislature. And we are the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's commission that was created to plan and coordinate all of the programming, projects, and events around the 250th anniversary of our nation next year in 2026. And we have been hard at work. I have been with the commission since inception. And we have over a dozen programs and projects that have been running. And now we're really starting to focus on that epic calendar of events for next year.
I am very excited to learn more about this because I think, as Charlie pointed out, we've all been kind of talking about it, but this is a massive coordinated effort. So I'm going to start out first. Do all the states have a U? Or an executive director?
Yes.
Okay.
So the National Commission announced as of this last summer that all 50 states and territories, so there are 56, folks like me across the nation planning for the 250th.
And how does Pennsylvania fit into the larger puzzle piece of a national effort?
Yeah.
Because you're focused on the state. What happens there's going to be a lot at the national level as well.
There is. So there is a national commission that was created by Congress back in 2016.
Okay.
Pennsylvania was the first state in the nation to create our own state commission, as I mentioned, back in 2018. So we work hand in hand with the National Commission. We also work hand in hand with all of our fellow states. And I've gotten so close with all of the me's across the nation. And everyone is really doing such great work, making sure that we are, really impacting, the communities across the nation. But also we want to make sure that this is a nonpartisan, a bipartisan, effort that we could really just, focus on our next generation. And the states have really worked with each other. We've kind of joined arms and said, okay, how are we going to do this? Pennsylvania,
sharing ideas.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
and it has worked. It really has worked, and we're thrilled. We're really excited for next year.
I don't know how you're doing this because as a Pennsylvanian, I believe that Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Massachusetts played a lot larger role in the founding of America than Idaho did, for example, or
Charlie.
Wyoming.
Come on, Charlie.
And so how do we how do we distinguish ourselves, and the special role that Pennsylvania played in the creation of this nation.
Well, it's actually very funny because I fight that battle all the time. And it's, Pennsylvania is the birthplace of American democracy. And
Amen.
I fight my colleagues across the nation in a fun way
Yes.
all the time about that. And I like to, really take it even a step further. America was born here. America was saved here in Gettysburg. America was built here in Pittsburgh, and America was powered here with our coal mines. So, our friendly competition across the nation, of course, but Pennsylvania is by far leading the country on the 250th activities. We're proud of that. And as we were talking earlier, I'm actually the longest serving 250th director in the nation. So, we were going over that in DC in July, and they were saying 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. I'm like 7.5. So again, we want to make sure the spotlight is here.
So I know that there are some programs underway. The main kickoff is in January, correct? But you've got some projects underway. Do you want to tell us a little bit about some of those?
Yeah. So we launched back in 2018, had a year to really get the commission going, really publicly kicked off in 2019. Since then, we have again adopted a dozen programs and projects that have been launched in all 67 counties. So we have been doing the work on the ground. All 67 counties are partners. Over 400 municipalities are also partners. Over 300 nonprofits across this Commonwealth. We really want to make sure that every community is included. So we have, again, a dozen programs and projects. We have our Keystone Classroom Initiative, which will actually culminate this December. And we will have reached 50,000 of our youngest generation Pennsylvanians at an age-appropriate level, teaching them the important role that Pennsylvania played in the founding of our nation. We have our Bells Across Pennsylvania program, which is a public art installation. And from the research we've done, we've actually figured out that this is the largest statewide public art installation in the nation.
What does that mean?
108 3x3 fiberglass Liberty Bells are being placed in all counties across the Commonwealth, a minimum of one of the 67. And those local artists are designing these bells reflective to tell stories of their communities. We have over 30 bells dedicated and unveiled currently, and all bells will be in place by the end of this year. And we're working with tourism on a map for 2026 for folks to go around and find the bells, learn about them. We're going to gamify it a little bit with some prizes.
Yeah.
But it's really important for folks to go on those road trips across the Commonwealth and learn these stories.
Oh, I think that sounds awesome.
You have something else called the Scholarship and Lecture 250 programs. What are they?
We are thrilled that we are going to actually offer $250,000 of scholarships to Pennsylvania seniors attending a Pennsylvania college or university in 2026, the 2026-2027 academic year. And what makes that even better is we reached out to our institutions here in the Commonwealth, and we have colleges and universities, over 40 of them, who have partnered with us to match our $10,000 scholarship if the student decides to go to those institutions to keep our Pennsylvania talent here. So we're really excited about those. The application is currently open for all Pennsylvania seniors, and it'll be open through January. The announcements will be made in March, April of 2026. And then our Lecture 250 series, we actually will be making the announcements in December of what organizations will receive grants to hold a lecture series, again, across the Commonwealth in 2026, April through October.
Well, what does the kickoff celebration look like? How's that shaping up? Is it going to be a big to-do?
So we are partnering with the Department of Agriculture and Farm Show to really kick off 2026 there. And then I will be on the road for 13 days straight, hitting all 67 counties. The goal really is to make sure, every county has a story to tell. Every county has contributions that they contributed to the overall Pennsylvania and therefore American story. We want to make sure those counties, even the smallest of them, feel like they are part of this anniversary. And so I will be on the road. Again, we will be hosting 67 specific county kickoffs, and then the year will be started. And we have over 4 dozen signature events throughout from January through December.
So at the farm show, during the farm show week, so might the butter sculpture reflect this?
I think you might have to wait and see.
I know. You have to wait and see what this is. I bet it does.
Maura's on.
I think there's going to be a lot of Easter eggs around the farm show with 250 themes.
You guys are plugged in.
I know. I'm thinking. I know what they're up to.
Well, this barnstorming of all 67 counties, is this associated with what I've been reading about your America 250 Pennsylvania mobile experience?
Yeah, so
Is
the mobile experience will be back on the road April 1. It'll be traveling. It was actually launched July 4th of 2025. Goal is to hit all 67 counties, largest festivals, largest events, really engaging everyday Pennsylvanians. We have our Pennsylvania Pursuit, which is a trivia game incorporating Pennsylvania historical, facts. We also have our Keystone Quest 8-bit video game where you drive your Butler County produced Jeep around Pennsylvania and you collect coins and flags, but you have to avoid rolling timber. You have to avoid elk. You have to avoid your spotted lantern flies, or you lose your coins. Really, again, engaging our next generation. And then we have our Commonwealth Chronicles storytelling booth, where folks go in and answer a prompt, and those stories go right into the Pennsylvania archives for generations to come to be able to hear those stories as part of the semi-quincentennial.
Well, it sounds like you've done a pretty amazing job of reaching out to all 67 counties, but if anybody is seeing this and saying, oh, I'd like to be involved, what can they do and how can they do it?
Yeah. So they can go to our website at America250PA.org, find us on social media. There are going to be activations and opportunities for every Pennsylvanian to participate next year. So they just have to find what's closest to them. And I think it's really important, as I mentioned earlier, small communities are the lifeblood of this Commonwealth. I'm a former borough mayor. We wanted to make sure we grew this from the bottom up, not the top down. So really making sure that these communities feel like they're included, that that their stories are being told. And we encourage all folks to reach out to us. We want as many partners on this as possible. And it's going to take all of us to make sure that Pennsylvania remains the leader for next year.
Well, what legacy do you hope that this whole program will leave for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania? Will the future generations remember Conrad Weiser? Will you be helping that? Will they remember William Penn?
Yeah, and I think this is really an opportunity. It's an opportunity to learn from our history, embrace our present where we are now, but most importantly, reimagine our future. I have an 11-year-old, and I think it's really important, again, the efforts like we're doing with the Keystone Classroom Initiative to really engage these students at an age-appropriate level, because they will be the ones who are celebrating and planning the 300th for us. And my son says all the time he's going to run America250PA. So I think that, to me, really that's the legacy. Yeah. The legacy is creating those memories for our next generation of Pennsylvanians, the same way we discussed before the show, you have memories from the bicentennial. That's what I hope we really leave here.
And will these classroom lessons continue beyond 2026?
So they conclude in December of this year.
Okay. Mm-hmm. They should keep going.
That's
just a thought.
Yep, absolutely. That's I think a conversation with the Department of Education. But yes,
that would be great.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's as we end the show? What's up for you when this is over?
A lot of sleeping. No, this work
year.
has been amazing, and seeing and traveling this Commonwealth multiple times over the 67 counties, but really just meeting everyday Pennsylvanians who really truly have that pride. And that I see this really as that opportunity to, not only again continue that pride, but for some of those to reignite that pride, and for all of us to really be proud Pennsylvanians.
I'm not worried about her future.
Well, let's all join in. Let's all join in next year with this great celebration.
Hope so.
Celebrate America's 250th birthday through the framework of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Thank you for all the work that you do.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
And we'll be back next week with another program from Behind the Headlines. We'll see you then.